What's up, Xina?
What's up?
Hey, thank you for coming through to my studio.
Thank you for having me.
It's snowing today.
It is.
Not an easy reason to be able to get up, you know. I feel like there's days when it's snowing outside and I see that and I'm like, oh, what's going on? I guess I'm just inside.
Yeah.
Um,
They can be really creative days.
True.
To just stay home and.
True. My first question for you, since we're in the spirit of snow and being in Minnesota, obviously there are days that you might fall out of love for your passion or it's just like hard to get up. But what kind of keeps you going through those moments?
You know, I would say that like I never really fall out of love with expressing myself, which is I think what my passion is at its core, you know, rather than just saying like music or dance or whatever. It's really just expression. And that is always there for me. I would say that like I do get bored pretty easily though. So like I have fallen out of love, I suppose, with like different iterations of myself as I've evolved over the years. You know, there's been a lot of different versions of Xina before Xina was Xina, you know. Lots of different textures and genres that I've sort of explored as a songwriter and performer, and I'm in a place now where like, I mean, stuff is sounding much different than it did 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I've gone through different eras of like, you know, there was an era of intense like longing and heartache, and then following that, you know, naturally there was an era of like anger and like grief, and I've created from both of those spaces. And you know, like 2 years ago I made an entire album that was really like gritty and like angry, and I was expressing what I needed to express at that time. But now I'm in a place where like I don't think I'm really going to give that work any more of my attention. So like you could say that I've fallen out of love with like that point in my expression, and like I want to be really intentional about the things I am putting into the world, for my sake in my own healing journey, and also as a healer, because I think that artists are healers inherently, and like being mindful of just the energy I put out, even though there is a place for all of that, you know, along the journey. It's like for me to say continue to like mix and master and perform a project that like I made from a really dark, spiteful place is only me sort of prolonging that and like stepping into that energy when like that's not really the healthiest thing for me to do.
Sure.
So it's kind of like a roundabout way of answering your question, but that's what it made me feel.
You got there. And I think the greatest artists, at least that I listen to and that I aspire to like not only look up to and spend many hours like on Spotify, just like hearing their struggles, their pain, their happiness, they're able to like encapsulate all that. And like as a fan, you go through that roller coaster with them. So in your opinion, what makes kind of those great artists that we all like try to be or are working towards becoming? And how do you feel like you've, in my opinion, you're a great artist, multifaceted. How have you been able to do it your way?
Well, I think the first thing is authenticity. Like, don't try to be anybody else. That just goes for any endeavor, you know. You can only be you. And I think it's really obvious when people are trying to be something else. And there's something to like having different personas. I definitely have a lot of different personas myself, but it's like those are already people that live in my body, you know. It's just like giving them a name and a focused energy. But like It's nothing that I'm trying to imitate, you know. Um, I think great artists are able to take what's familiar and what is undiscovered and merge the two. You know, like we all want what we know and love. We all want like maybe a hint of like, you know, old school R&B or like blues or whatever the case, you know. We want that like baseline of familiarity and nostalgia, but we also want inventiveness, and we want progression, and we crave, you know, expansion and like futurism, if that's a word.
It's a word now.
It's a word now. So I think there's a really important balance of like one foot in like the groundedness of what is tangible and what we know and love, and then like what can be explored and invented beyond that. I'm really into like throwing people curveballs and like just getting a little experimental, while kind of having like pop R&B like melodies and lyrics kind of driving things. So that's what I'm attracted to as an artist, and I think that that's what makes a great artist, in my opinion.
That's a great answer. And there's not a lot of people that. Did you always have this mindfulness about like artistry in general? Like, did you always think this way, or was there ever a time like, especially when you start off and you're even before you put out like your first songs, and you might have the itch of like doing music. There's a whole bunch of other like steps and hurdles that come along with it that maybe give you this mindfulness that you have today about what is being a artist in general and what is being a great artist.
Yeah, I think I've always just had a little bit of like a rebel spirit, or even just like the spirit of like exploration. Like I said, I get bored easily, so it's less of like this mindfulness that you now witness and that I can now communicate is the result of like just really digging into that sort of curiosity over the years, and not like being interested in regurgitating what I already know, or like just learning how to execute something. It's really always exploration for me, and like I've found from that that's what I really value from the process.
Yeah. While you've been exploring all this time, you've been here in Minneapolis. What keeps you here in Minneapolis, and how would you like to see the city not only continue to grow, but provide and kind of support you in your pursuits? I know you have a show coming up this month at First Ave, and then you have a show at the Amsterdam. So those are a couple ways we can get out there and support. But yeah, what keeps you in Minneapolis, and how would you like to see the city continue to grow artistically in general? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was born here. I've been here all 24 years of my life, which I, at this point, have made peace with. Like, this is the first winter of my entire life. Maybe when I was a kid and I liked to go sledding, I liked it, you know. But, like, I feel like this is home now. I don't feel like I want to die just because it's snowing outside, which has been the case for, I feel like, a lot of my conscious life. I do really love it here. I love the community. We have so much talent here, you know. But I do see myself living other places, you know. I think that's just a healthy thing to do, you know, get away from home, experience different cultures and communities. But we'll see how things unfold. I think every artist has this sort of, I mean, here in Minneapolis, we talk a lot about community, and we are all aware that like there is so much talent here, and it's so sort of widespread, you know, and it's got so many different iterations and so many people that are just really authentically expressing themselves and they bring something fresh. But we also, you know, I think have the inclination to want to move to LA or New York. That's just kind of historically been the natural progression of things. But like the way I see it, and I've had a lot of conversations about this recently, like if we really are committed to uplifting Minneapolis and like putting it on the map in that way to where people don't need to relocate, I think it's really that sort of spirit has to be infused in all the decisions that we make moving forward in our careers. Like, for example, let's say like Papa does a song with like The Weeknd, and then
we just spoke that into existence.
That's what I'm saying. And then his next move is, you know, a collab with Haroon or Moise or, you know, you name it. Like when I do my
when you get your feature from SZA,
when I get my SZA feature, you know, I turn around and make a track with Ricky Monique or Sim One or Riot Girl Darko, you know, to name a few. Things like that, like just really focusing on uplifting our community, because once you reach that level, like what's going to make you really want to look back? And that's, I think, what people fall into pretty easily. And I'm sure there's so many different factors at play there. There's different people making those decisions for artists, and we all want to keep leveling up. But, you know, if we're really about a community, let's all be about the community. You know what I'm saying?
I love that you said the word legacy. I had a football coach when I was growing up who his mantra was like legacy, and thinking about the actions that you do today and how that will translate to the stories that are told about you tomorrow. And it's so important as an artist to even just like, yeah, it's a dream, right? To have that Weeknd feature or SZA feature. But then like what happens after that? And just really having that intent, like that vision and that foresight to be like, okay, I'm going to turn back around and not forget about the people that got me to that point, and not forget to like put on those people and put on the city that you're from, because it needs it. And if we are really about it, that might be what it takes.
Totally. I think that's a beautiful opportunity, because there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, there's going to be a handful of real breakout stars from the Twin Cities. And like just keeping this conversation flowing of like what that means to us as a community, I think, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah. So we recently collaborated on a music video for a song of mine called Raspberry Tea.
Such a good song.
Thank you. You happen to just fit the imaginary criteria of the fictional person I was writing about in that song. So I don't know how that happened, but the stars aligned. Once again, Effie was able to make that connection, and we already had respect for each other as like artists and musicians here in the scene. So walk us through your character in that, and then how that translates to like who you actually are, low key or high key.
Well, first off, you said you don't know how that happens. I do. Because I'm a very spiritual, mystical type of bitch, you know? And like I totally believe in like planting a seed and just like trusting the universe to bring you what you need to like nurture that seed and see the fruits. And like I think it's so beautiful that you wrote that song with that character in mind. This character is a dancer in many facets. She's a ballerina, aspiring professional dancer, you know. She also works at a strip club to support herself. And she's just kind of, she's really committed. I don't know what, I feel like I have trouble like describing this character from the third person, because like when Effie told me about the part, I was like, okay, so I'm just going to be myself. Like, I don't really need to know any more about this character. But she's kind of chaotic, it seems. But she's really grounded, and she gets the job done.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, like I said, like that's who I am, and it was really a pleasure and an honor to get to play that character. There were more parts of your question.
Well, the other part, I guess, to sprinkle onto that is this character almost feels alone too at the same time. While when I wrote it, I was playing. I came with it from the perspective of being like a supporter, whether that's like a literal friend or a boyfriend, someone who's like, hey, when you're done hustling and trying to get all those things done to get you to where you want to be, at the end of the day, I'm here to like help you. And I'm like, when you walk through the door, I'm here to make your day better. And I think it goes a long way to like any other artists who have to work like a job as a janitor at a high school while at nighttime trying to become like a comedian. Or you hear the stories of people in Hollywood who had to wait tables for years while they were also taking acting lessons and what's it called when you go castings. Yeah, and doing castings. So just like that, like not starving artist, but just hungry artist perspective. And yeah, I'm just like watching it all and like helping and guide and support through that. So I'm sure you have many friends and collaborators that you work with who also like, yeah, music is what they would love to do, or dancing is what they would love to do. But like for now, they have to make sacrifices. I think that's just so real. Regardless of like what space you're in.
Definitely.
Okay. Also, you forgot to mention you hadn't done ballerina work for a minute.
Yeah. So that was just a little bit more about that day. It was overall a really, really beautiful experience. Like the whole crew was beautiful to work with. It was a very long day. It was a 14-hour day. I had worked the night before until 2 a.m. and my body was kind of in protest. You know, I think I was on like 4 hours of sleep. And I got up and we got to work. And I really did give every last drop of my energy. Like by the end of the day, I was really like, okay, y'all, like this is really it.
Yeah.
Like this is all. Like I've given it, you know. But yeah, there was ballet in the studio, and then the crew built a strip club in a pole studio that I often train at, which was, I mean, that was insane. Just like on its own, I'm glad that I witnessed that, because now I know that it's possible, you know.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, as far as the ballet, like I do have a really good foundation of ballet training, but as far as like putting on point shoes, that's like I already can hear the professional ballerinas like talking shit. Like I can hear it right now. And like, sure, go ahead, rightfully so. Like there's so many like models and actresses and things that like really appropriate ballerina culture by like just putting on point shoes for the aesthetic. And it's totally valid for like the professionals who have dedicated their entire lives to the pain of it, the physicality, the commitment. It's really, you know, an extraordinary feat to be a professional ballerina. So like for me to like put my little shoes on that I wore, I think the last time when I was in middle school and you know, stand up on my toes like that, I did pay the price. Like my toes were bleeding. I could have done a lot more for myself by like just putting some Band-Aids on beforehand, but the friction really got to me. My toe skin has grown back though. Oof. It's only been a couple weeks.
Okay.
But we're good. So sacrifices were made, but I'm so happy to be able to give blood, sweat, and tears to any project that I'm invested in. And it was just such a perfect alignment that I was like, okay, there's no choice but to give it my all.
Yeah. And hey, I thank you so much for not only the effort and just like, we felt it that day. We're like, yo, like, are you seeing this? Yeah. Are you seeing this? Like, this is like just amazing. It's literally the only word you can describe it with. And I have so much more respect for not only ballerinas, but also pole dancers. And I don't think the general community of people, when you think pole dancers or when you think ballerina, well, let's maybe specifically pole dancers, I don't think they get the respect that they deserve, like for the athleticism, for the nicks and bruises that come with that. And I'm so fortunate to be able to have captured that on film and give people a little glimpse into what that's like, and hopefully they feel it when they watch the music video.
Right. It's such a, I mean, ballet and pole dance alike, you know, when you witness it, the best of the best, they make it look so effortless. And that goes with everything, you know, but like I've been pole dancing for maybe 4 years now, and the initial pursuit to like just kind of get the fundamentals under my belt was some of the hardest work I've ever done. Like the pain it's a lot. The way it really beats up your body. Like I remember training sessions like feeling like I really did just get like my shit rocked. Like somebody really just beat the fuck out of me. Like that's what it felt like continuously. You know, I had huge bruises all over my body, but there's something really exciting about that.
The adrenaline that comes with that.
Yeah. Being able to breathe into the pain, like as you're learning a new trick. It's really meditative and transformative.
Okay. I have one last question for you. And I think this is more so for anyone else that comes across this video or hears a snippet of this conversation. Can you give your best advice for maybe for like the dancers of the world, or even just artists in general, about when those nicks and bruises come along and you're trying to breathe through the pain? How do you do it? Because you make it sound easy, but like, how can we do that? And how can you kind of reassure us that like we can also do that, you know, in our
totally
work?
I'm a big advocate for wellness universally. You know, I love to meditate and make sure I'm taking care of my body, conditioning in other ways, you know. So that's important as a baseline, to just make sure your spirit's good, because you can't achieve anything otherworldly without first having your inner world, you know, at peace. So that would be number one. And number two, like the only way you're not going to get there is if you stop moving completely. So like I have to keep that in mind. And I've heard that from very successful artists and artists that are in, you know, various stages of their career, that really like, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And the people that are going to be successful are the people that just didn't stop. Because a lot of people are going to give up. But if that's not you, you're going to get there eventually. So that's what I try to remind myself.
I think that's all we need. That's all
I agree, right? Like,
yeah, just don't stop.
Just don't stop. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, on that note, yeah, that's a good place. We'll just leave it there. Yeah. Xina, thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, check out Xina's music, go to her shows. A lot to look forward to.
Check out Raspberry Tea, stream that shit.
Stream it.
It's gonna get stuck in your head. Yes. Beware, I warned you.